Hey, that old Glenn Miller music means it's time now for Helping Seniors of Brevard with your host, the Executive Director of Helping Seniors, Kerry Fink, and his very special guest, Dr. Lee Sheldon.
Hey, good afternoon. It's always great to join everyone on the radio lunchtime, 12 noon to 1 p.m. right here on 90.3 FM WEJF. And if you're listening to us online, we appreciate you tuning in, or whatever you call it, when you stream in at WEJF.net. And of course, to the growing number of listeners who catch this as a podcast, wherever you get a podcast, doesn't matter if it's Apple iTunes or if it's Amazon or if it's Spotify or iHeartRadio. We're just glad you're here. Our role is to give you information that's going to help you develop your own aging plan. We like to call it helping you get your ducks in a row. And, you know, it's funny because we talk always in the Helping Seniors world about 7 pillars of an aging plan. These are things that you want to think about. Those of us who live in Florida understand a hurricane plan. It means you don't want the hurricane. You just want a plan or a preparation or an idea of what you do if it's coming at you. And so with that, we always talk about making an aging plan. And pillar number 1, of course, is your health, because if you have your health, you have everything. And so today with us on the radio, it's always a pleasure to visit with noted area periodontist. His name is Dr. Lee Sheldon. You know the name because you probably have maybe seen a lot of times they have publications in a lot of the places that you might see them where they're talking about mouth health and the kind of things that they are able to do to help people maximize their health. And Dr. Sheldon, you have been here, a fixture on the Space Coast since the early 80s, and then you're sought after. You are heading out to train folks in Oregon and all kinds of things. So you really are kind of a pillar in the community too.
Yeah, it's getting exciting, Kerry. I've been working hard on this Oregon presentation. They're giving me 3 hours. Can you imagine? 3 hours to speak. So I've got to keep it interesting, but essentially I took my standard lecture, which I've been doing for the past 2 years, and I've rewritten the entire thing. And let me tell you, it's a little bit of work. And hopefully we'll be able to make it interesting and be able to teach some folks a little bit about what we're doing here. And we've even come up with a theme song for it. And you know, I got to tell you, because I was with, we were over at the car museum,
Yes.
and I forgot what the event was, but
it was the celebration of cars. But
that's
yes.
okay. And so we were with Hal, and Hal's been a long time help to all of us in helping seniors, as well as within my practice doing audiovisual stuff, and has worked with you for many years.
Yeah.
And Hal gave me a hint. He said, go to Suno, and he was using Grok and Suno in order to be able to write a song. So I went home and I did the same thing. I didn't do it with Grok. I did it with ChatGPT. I use Grok as well, but I did it with ChatGPT. We wrote a song, and that is going to be my 37-second theme song for the presentation that we'll be doing in Oregon this Saturday. So it will be rather than lead with my saying something, we're going to play a theme song instead. So
I love it.
It should be fun.
I love it. We're going to have to block time on the next episode and share once it's made its big debut out there and figure out how to share that. It's so much fun. No, we have talked so often about the fact that you have led the way. Historically, you were one of the first people doing and studying how to make implants work and be effective and be a solution for those of us that need those. And at the same time, as a periodontist, you also spend a lot of your time trying to save teeth so that we don't have to go down that road. And in fact, just along the way, you've been a friend of the Helping Seniors since Joe Steckler started this organization 15 years ago. You were helping him actually when he was building up Brevard Alzheimer's. But one of the things that occurs to me is we've done a lot of shows where we've just talked about things that don't have really necessarily, you might think, anything to do with your mouth. In fact, we've talked about both sides of it, that your mouth, as your mouth goes, maybe the rest of your body's going, but also vice versa. And so today's topic, the hidden disruptors, why sugar-free labels are leading us astray, is going to be one of those topics that I think is going back to pillar number 1, like how do we keep our wellness at peak operating efficiency. And I do think, what it is, Dr. Sheldon, to keep it simple, we all understand garbage in, garbage out, but I have a feeling that's maybe where we're going today.
We are going in that direction. If it's a fresh food, it doesn't need a label. So once we get to labels, then watch out. And we're going to talk about some of the things to watch out for in labels. But I will give you the summary statement. Fresh fruits and fresh vegetables and fresh everything lead the way, because the body knows what to do with that. And anything that has a bunch of ingredients, the body is fooled. And so, if we take a look at any label we've got or any packaged food, we've got the front, which talks about low fat, low calorie, low this, low that. That means nothing. That's advertising. We go to the back of it and we look at the fine print in the label. That's where you're going to find out that things aren't what they're advertised to be. And and food manufacturers are obligated to put that in there. And so you've got to become a good label reader. But the bottom line is, the less processed food you take, and you're seeing that all over the place. I'm not giving you anything new, or any of our listeners anything new. If it's packaged, it's generally not good for you.
I've heard you make the statement many times as we've done programs about healthy eating, and you say it's always good to shop around the edges of the grocery store. And you say, because that's where you're going to find the fresher things. And I thought it was interesting because as you were explaining about food labels, I think a lot of times, my own experience is I remember we used to, almost as a joke, would pick up a package and start reading the ingredients on the back, and you couldn't even pronounce some of the ingredients, let alone know what they were actually doing for you. And I thought about that, how often over just watching when somebody will say, oh, this such and such is good for you, and then a contrary study comes out a few years later, says, oh, this is not good for you. It usually has to do with something like, they tell you, with watch your fat content, watch your sugar content. They give you all these things, and we end up chasing those. But to your point, I've never seen an ingredient label on an apple, for example, and I guess that's where we're going.
How do you like that? That tells you something right there. You're right. And, if there's something on it and they can label it as something, there's always something that's going to be a little bit surreptitious in there. If we're talking about something that is easy to pour, it has a bunch of stuff in it that will ruin your gut or will certainly disturb your gut. If it says low sugar, but it has my favorite thing, and we talked about this a little bit. We've been concentrating on this because I mentioned it a little bit in last month's show. Maltodextrin. Maltodextrin is the sneakiest thing that you've ever seen on a label. What's maltodextrin? Maltodextrin is something that doesn't have sugar in it, that's highly processed, that if you take it, it raises your blood sugar higher than any sugar does. But because it itself doesn't come from a sugar, it's considered to be healthy when in fact it's anything but. So, we've got to be able to be careful because, we're in this mode, and I think we're gradually getting out of this mode. I think people are becoming a little bit more educated. We're in the mode that for years that, you can always take a drug in order to be able to counteract everything. And I think now we have learned that drugs may counteract something, but that's not necessarily the only thing that we can do for our health. And one thing that we can do for our health is to avoid these things that are forcing us to take the drugs to begin with. And those are foods, and those foods are not necessarily really foods. And so we're playing this game of introducing things into our system via our mouths that aren't good for us. And then we're trying to take a drug to counteract that. You wouldn't do that with your car. Why are you doing it with your body?
It makes all the sense in the world. I'm smiling as you're going through this because literally tomorrow, talking about Thursday, we have our every other month we do a program called Nourish Your Spirit. It's a cooking class, Dr. Sheldon, and it's led by a wonderful chef. Her name is Chef Jillian Zebris, and she's with Chefs for Seniors. And this is a program that's put together with the help of Ellen Jones and the great folks at Senior Helpers of Melbourne. And as you know, because we've talked about Chef Jillian before, she's one of these chefs who's very, very interested. Her business is Chefs for Seniors. So what she does is she prepares nutritious meals live and in person, or her chefs will, at somebody's home. And what she specializes in is making sure that these are meals that meet a doctor's requirements. You know, every time we go to the doctor hands us a pamphlet about Mediterranean diet or what we should be eating, and we promptly go home and oftentimes forget about it, or maybe we try it for the first day or two, but fall apart. And what Jillian does in these cooking, it's really a cooking class, but it ends up being a tasting class, so it ends up being lunch as well. She ends up trying to show us menus that are done with simple whole ingredients. So she says that, and she's always trying to figure out how to do this in a very budget friendly way. So it's affordable for people to access, that is simple for them to be able to prepare, and yet very tasty. And I was thinking, as you were talking about this, that she's a very big proponent, just like you are, of the simple foods. And by the way, if you're interested, you have to RSVP, because they have to know how many people are going to be there to know how many places at the table to set, if you will. So you can always call us, Helping Seniors, at 321-473-7770, 321-473-7770, and tell Nancy or one of our great volunteers that you would like to be there for Nourish Your Spirit cooking class. But back to the point, Dr. Sheldon, I think she's also talking about trying to cook with simple foods. She's always bringing, because I've been to these classes, they're wonderful, and she brings simple ingredients that, either come out of the produce aisle or, she's not getting, or spices or things like that, but she's really not going in and getting processed foods at all.
Yeah, and that's the point. You just have to take a look at Chef Jillian. Just look at her. You say, "All right, there's a healthy person right there."
Sure.
It's so important. And frankly, Kerry, it's so easy. I do a lot of the cooking for our household. So Eleanor does her thing. I do my thing, and my thing is cooking. And I've always liked to cook.
Wow.
Cooking is so much easier now than it ever has been before. You can go into ChatGPT for nothing. And I think we talked about this either last month or maybe when we did the thing up at Mary Square Mall. And essentially, you feed in the ingredients to the ChatGPT and ask ChatGPT to make a recipe for you, and it'll do that, no charge. So you go to chatgpt.com and you say, "I've got these ingredients in the refrigerator or on the shelf," and just feed it in, and ChatGPT will make the recipe for you. You go out and you start cooking. A lot of people, I think, are intimidated by cooking, particularly, and I don't want to categorize them because I'm obviously a man, but single men, because the wife always cooks, and unfortunately the wife may have passed away, and we start to get into the idea, well, I can't cook. It's too difficult to cook. And so I'm going to go into the freezer section. I'm going to go into I'm going to get the box of something in the middle of the food store. Remember, Kerry just said you go to the outside of the food store. You don't go to the middle of the food store, because the middle of the food stores, we got all those nice boxes and cans and all that kind of stuff. So you go to the outside. I, as a 70-year-old man, can make, and you'll be surprised how easy it is to put something in a pot and cook it, and it'll be delicious afterwards, and you'll even have some left over for lunch the next day, and all of a sudden you're doing something that's so much better for you than what you're going to get out of the box. So there are easy ways to do this. If you don't have ChatGPT, you can go into Google create recipes for you as well. So it's so easy now that we've got those of us who don't cook. Let's just learn how to cook a little bit. For the amount of time that it takes you to warm something up, you can or mix up the ingredients and then warm it up or put it in the microwave or whatever. With just a little bit more time, you can make something that's so much better for you, so much healthier for you, and will make you feel a lot better.
Yeah, and that's actually been the point of this Nourish Your Spirit program. I am surprised because, we don't have a full kitchen when she sets up for these classes. She basically sets up a couple of folding tables, and she brings a few, she'll bring an electric skillet and some tools like that. But I would call it countertop cooking. And yet she comes in and she prepares the whole thing and she shows you how it's done. And so to your point, I think it's very encouraging because not only are you tasting tasting what's happening, but she's showing you how to do it. And maybe it's something that would spark somebody to say, "Hey, I could do this better than I've been doing." And it's really a worthwhile program. And so we're glad that we are able to do that at the center.
It's true. And that's the point of what she's doing and what we're talking about. Yeah, you can do it all in one single pot. You can. Mm-hmm. You don't have to wash a lot of things and you're all done. I mean, if you're used to watching somebody with 15 different pots and plates all over the place, that's not what we're talking about. We're talking about something 3, 4, 5, 6 ingredients, maybe a little bit of spices, and you can even get prepared spices, even organic spices. You can get that at Publix as well. Just the seasoning packet. You don't even have to mix the different spices, and all of a sudden you've got something that's so much better for you.
Well, there's a part of this that I want to get into, too, that we were thinking about as we wanted to share this topic, why sugar-free labels are leading us astray. One of the things is that you point out, and by the way, listener, if you're hearing this, Dr. Sheldon gives us a column that we run in the Senior Scene magazine each month. So when you get your fresh copy of Senior Scene, this will be coming out in the May edition, you will see an article from Dr. Sheldon titled "The Hidden Disruptors: Why Sugar-Free Labels Are Leading Us Astray." So this article, if we missed anything, just be looking for your copy that's going to be available to you on the 1st of May, and it will be right in there, in detail. And so one of the things, though, that I was thinking about in the article, we're talking about the fact that this isn't just for older people. This is something that all ages should be concerned with. Usually, I guess for many people, it starts so they go to the doctor, and then the doctor starts talking about sugar levels and A1Cs and things like that, and says, "Oh, we probably have to make a change in your diet." But I think it'd probably be better if we would start a lot earlier.
It is, because the body is able to fight bad things a lot easier when we're in our 20s than when we're in our 70s. I mean, if you keep on attacking yourself when you're in your teens or your 20s, you've got much less of a reservoir to work with when you're our age. And so we've got, this is a lifelong learning episode. Now, for some people that will say, well, maybe that's the reason I've got disease and therefore there's nothing I can do about it now. The subject of my lecture in Oregon is the body can heal. The body knows how to heal. And it'd be much better to keep that reservoir going by eating well in your younger years. But if you didn't, it doesn't mean that you can't you can't do it later on. It's easier if you make this lifelong rather than do it later in life in your senior years. But at the same time, it's never too late to start.
Well, I would assume it's sort of like the same advice they give you if you were a smoker. Is that, of course, you shouldn't be a smoker, but they say even if you quit later in life, there are so many health benefits for stopping that you still do want to stop. And I almost think that's what we're saying here too, right? You still, even if you've maybe been a person who's eaten wrong, for most of your adult life, you're still going to be benefiting by making these changes to your lifestyle now.
Well, I finish off my lecture because I'm talking about periodontal disease, and I'm talking about the things that we can do for ourselves in the lecture. But I finish off with somebody who I'm very close to, who essentially was told she was going to die in 3 months. Wow. And she decided and she's well into her 60s, and she decided to reverse everything bad that she was doing. And 2 years later, she's still alive and she's doing very, very well. So we can go from the brink of death and just bring ourselves back as long as we do the right things for ourselves. It's interesting because I have this lecture, and I bring her up during the lecture because she was the one who began our hygiene program, and the hygiene program that I talk about, which is a non-surgical program, and she was the one who was told that. So now I have her lecturing to our staff about 2 months before she's given the death sentence. And you see a video of her talking, and she looks like the oldest lady you've ever seen. And we all went out to lunch a couple months ago, and we took a picture together. And you juxtapose the picture of what she looks like now to what she looked like just 2 years ago. And she looks 20 years younger. She looks fantastic. So, yeah, I mean, it's those kinds of amazing stories where somebody's on the brink of death and she's doing fine now, which says, yeah, it's never too late. And frankly, you can make your body heal. Just do the right things for yourself.
It's that old line, you are what you eat, or something like that.
That's Adele Davis from the 1960s.
There you go. Well, so in the article, you also talk about a metabolic red line, and you say it's a little bit like revving your engine kind of thing. Explain that.
Yeah, it is. Now, we all talk in symbols, don't we? We think about something. We got to relate it to something else. And so the red line, you know what the red line is. You know that you're at red line. You know that your engine is going way too fast. You're going 60 miles an hour in first gear. I mean, that's the red line. And you know what? If you're eating a lot of sugar or hidden sugars, then you are redlining yourself. You are going way beyond what your body is made to do. And you know what? Your body has to harness all these resources in order to be able to fight what you're doing to it. And so if you keep on doing that, eating processed foods, you're redlining yourself, whether you feel it or not. And you know what? You do feel it. You do feel it because you eat those processed foods and say, oh, why do I feel so crummy? Oh, maybe I'll take a pill. Maybe I'll take an aspirin. Maybe I'll do this. Maybe I'll do that. Gee, how come I'm taking so many antacids at night? Well, why is it that I'm going through all of this stuff? It's because your body has been telling you, you're doing the wrong things. Let's do some right things. And all of a sudden you'll feel better. If you don't approach the red line, you don't have to change your engine as often. You don't have to, or do all the maintenance on your engine the way you ordinarily would. And I'm not a car guy. You guys who are car guys know it better than I am. If you're going to keep on pushing and pushing and pushing and pushing, you've got a big repair bill coming up. Well, how about if we just go easy, you take it easy, and if we go 35 miles an hour in a 35 mile an hour zone, and we don't rev it up to 100 miles an hour in first gear or second gear, you're going to do a lot better in your car, and you'll do a lot better yourself.
I'm smiling when you're talking about the red line because almost every Hollywood movie that you see that is trying to build tension about some situation that your hero has to resolve, they always put in a red line device. They have a little gauge, and the needle keeps moving closer and closer to that red line. And of course, something terrible, catastrophic is going to happen if they can't solve this before it hits the red line. But I think the basic premise that you're getting at is anytime that you're overworking the thing, you're stressing it out, and you're not, and eventually you're going to wear it out simply because you're just running too close to the edge. And I think that's supposed to be our takeaway as we think about this red line and trying to get you kind of back off the stress. I mean, I guess there's so many benefits to if we get this right, we're going to feel better. We're going to save money when we go to the doctor. We're not going to need as many prescriptions. We're going to feel better, and just everything's going to function better.
Yeah, it's true. And I'll show you a little bit of bias here. And, if any physicians are listening, you can question me privately if you'd like. So, doctors, you and I have gotten along together for many, many years, and we'll continue to get along together. But let's talk about something that really isn't controversial anymore. Drugs are made to adjust red lines.
Ah.
You talked about hemoglobin A1C, which is an indicator of diabetes. And okay, so we take a drug to adjust that red line down. Do you know what that introduces? A hidden red line that we're not going to discover for another 5, 10, or 20 years. That we said, oh, that drug created another red line. We didn't know about that. Now we know that that drug does that too. Oh, good. Let's invent another drug that'll counteract that drug in order to make things better. Okay. So it is the illusion that things are better. And I'm not saying don't take medications. Of course you do. But if you go to any doctor, any credible doctor, and you say, all right, doctor, here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to change my diet entirely. And I want you to follow me up. And I want you to help me withdraw from these drugs if I'm doing better. Any good doctor will say, I'll support you on that. Let's see every 6 weeks, every 3 months, whatever it is, and let's trace those tests and see how you're doing. And if I can help you withdraw from your medications, I'm happy to do so. They'll do it. They'll do it nearly every single time. A good doctor, they'll do that nearly every single time. Now, there may be some times when there's something they can't do. Okay, they'll be honest about that. But if they just say, no, you need the drugs and that's it, no, that's not the way it works. And that's why I gave you the example of my friend who had, who's nearly, she was told by her doctor, you're going to die in 3 months. And here she is 2 years later, and she's doing just fine.
It's a great success story. So we're going to continue this conversation, Hidden Disruptors, Why Sugar-Free Labels Are Leading Us Astray, on the second half of Helping Seniors Radio with our special guest, Dr. Lee Sheldon. See you in just a moment.
Hey, now it's time for the second half of our Helping Seniors of Brevard with our host, Kerry Fink, and his very special guest, Dr. Lee Sheldon.
Hey, thanks again. It's always good to be back on the radio. Thanks for sticking with us on your lunchtime hour every Wednesday, 12 noon to 1 p.m. on 90.3 FM radio and online at WEJF.net. And thanks if you're listening as a podcast. We are having a very good discussion with Dr. Lee Sheldon, noted area periodontist, although we're actually talking about your overall health today. The title of our show is The Hidden Disruptors, Why Sugar-Free Labels Are Leading Us Astray. And in the first part of the show, Dr. Sheldon, we were talking about the fact that there are like all these complex words you find in ingredient labels if you ever read an ingredient label. And you were explaining to us that in particular, something called maltodextrin is a very complex carb that actually can be more harmful maybe even than table sugar. And we were talking about during the break that maybe we want to talk a little bit about some of these things that you read on the back of these labels.
Yeah, it is. So maltodextrin, if you taste it, it tastes like nothing, but it's added to packaged foods in order to give them some bulk. And if so you have the package and you have more powder in that, that's maltodextrin. And maltodextrin essentially is a complex carbohydrate which has been chopped up into little pieces, and it raises your blood sugar higher than regular sugar does. And so that's a typical example of something that doesn't taste sweet, but actually is very, very harmful to you. And if you look at packaged foods, and of course, I'm going to encourage you not to look at packaged foods. Go to the fresh fruit, fresh vegetable, go to the meat, go someplace else. But if you're curious and you want to look at packaged foods, look at the number of items that have maltodextrin in it and how bad it is for you. Of course, it won't say that on the label, but it will say maltodextrin on the label. You'll see how many foods have it, and we say, well, gee, this powder doesn't taste sweet. And sure enough, it's acting just as badly as any sugar might, or worse. But there's some other keys here, Kerry. One is if anything ends in the word OSE, O-S-E, that's sugar.
Oh.
Anything. Anything.
Sucrose, glucose. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly right. Fructose, maltose. Dextrose, all of those oses. So there is key. Ose means sugar, but there are other things that are put in there that you might not recognize. Now, a lot of people know high fructose corn syrup isn't good for you. Isn't good for you. But what about brown rice syrup? Every brown rice is healthy, right? No, brown rice syrup, it's totally sugar. How about fruit juice concentrate or evaporated fruit juice concentrate? Essentially, that means that everything that's good in the fruit has remained on the table. The machine gets that, and you're getting the straight sugar from the fruit juice, just as bad as anything else. How about barley malt? Oh, that sounds so good. Or how about agave nectar, the more natural, supposedly. All sugar, all sugar, all sugar.
Wow.
If you look at things that you already know about, turbinado is sugar. It doesn't end in ose, but it's sugar. If you just keep on going through this, date sugar, honey is sugar as well. Now, there are some benefits to honey, so I'm not going to put them quite in the same category, but those are the types of things where if you look at it and you see the list of those things, that's important. Now, also what you need to know about a label is when you're looking at a label, the thing that's listed first on the label is the thing that's of greatest quantity. And so what producers will do will be to take the sugar and divide it up into 5 different labels or 5 different items that are all sugar, but because each of the percentages are lower, then it goes to the back of the list rather than the front. So if it said sugar, it would be the number 1 item. But if it's an item that has dextrose, cane sugar, fruit juice concentrate, barley malt, high fructose corn syrup, and it's only 20% of it, then they can list it farther down in the label. So understand that there's a little bit of fooling that's going on. Even if you're reading the label, there's a little bit of fooling that's going on. And we've already talked about the answer to that is don't eat packaged foods. But this teaches you how to read a label a little bit better. Some people says if the label says more than 3 ingredients, don't do it. Other people say more than 6 ingredients, don't do it. And the answer is eat an avocado. It's not labeled.
Well, right. Well, just to give some perspective, if you're just joining us, this is the conversation we're having with Dr. Lee Sheldon of Dr. Sheldon and Furtado Solid Bite is called The Hidden Disruptors, Why Sugar-Free Labels Are Leading Us Astray. And this is actually pulling some topics and themes from an article that's going to be published in Senior Scene magazine in the May edition. And one of the things that we were talking about is it's challenging as a consumer. I mean, I think you already said the answer to the question is go eat an avocado, or like I said, I mean, they don't have to put an ingredient label on an apple or something like that. But you also, in addition to the sugars you can identify, in this article, you're talking about invisible ingredients, like things that might be sugars that we don't even know they're not legally required to be listed as added sugars, but maybe are still not the right thing that we really want to be ingesting.
Yeah, it's true. We also have a lot of things that are in there for convenience or to make it taste good or to make it last a little bit longer. All right, I'm going to give you an example. It's not even in the article. Are you ready?
Sure.
What does natural flavors sound like to you?
Something that makes it taste better.
Yeah, and it's natural, right?
Except it's got to be good.
It's got to be good. Except when it's natural, they can take the source of it. It's natural. You can run it through a machine, do all sorts of things to it. So by the time it comes out the other end, even though it came from something natural, it's artificial. It's been manufactured. Oh, wow. So just because this is natural does not necessarily mean it's good. As a matter of fact, it probably isn't good.
Wow.
I've been working on this one myself. There is a particular soda that by the way, I drink club soda. This is bubbly water. I like that a lot. Mm-hmm. And for years I was reading something. I was having something that had natural flavors in it. And I didn't realize, I mean, I'm good, but, not that good. So I'm reading an article about natural flavors, and then I look at the soda that I'm having. Sure enough, it says natural flavors. Well, I got the one that instead of has natural flavors, it has fruit juice in it. not evaporated fruit juice, just plain old fruit juice. It isn't sweet at all. And so does it cost a little bit more? Yeah, it does cost a little bit more. About another $1 per 6-pack or 8-pack. But I just saw it on sale at one of our local food stores, and it was buy one, get one free. So, or buy one, get one 50% off. So, and I'm not going to give the brand name, of course, but you can read it yourself. You can see that there is, by the way, only one soda that really does have a flavor that's natural, that isn't processed. And so if you look through the soda aisle and you're interested in eating and drinking something that doesn't have any sweetness to it, but you want a little bit of grape juice flavor or orange flavor or black cherry flavor, it's actually flavored with the real cherry, with real orange, with nothing else to it. And you can buy that at any at any food store.
Yeah. Well, this is all so good that one of the areas that we talked about in this article, too, is that there's a couple of very specific things that eating better might help resolve. One you talk about the brain fog connection, meaning that, sometimes sometimes as we go along through the day, we might have a midday fatigue or brain fog, or we just don't feel like we're thinking as clearly as maybe we want to. And apparently our diet and what we're ingesting could have something to do with that.
Well, just think about it. Let's go into really rough terms here. Think of what happens after you have an alcoholic drink or two or three. Now, we're not necessarily saying that this is alcohol. As a matter of fact, it's not. But you are overloading the brain with something it can't handle. And when you overload the brain with something it can't handle, the brain has to recover. And the brain has to neutralize the stuff that you've put in it. And so the body is then getting its resources primarily from the pancreas and the liver in order to be able to neutralize what it is that you've had. Well, during that time, that you would have brain fog. Brain fog can be produced by a number of different things, and it isn't just an emotional type of thing. It is food. It is food that we put into our body, or non-food that we're calling food. And yeah, it produces brain fog. And so, one of the solutions to brain fog is to have something natural at the time of brain fog. So if you're eating poorly and you eat an apple around the time of brain fog, see how you feel 10 or 20 minutes later. You'll feel rejuvenated. But the whole idea is avoid the stuff that's giving the brain fog to begin with, and therefore the apple isn't as important, other than I want an apple. There are some people, by the way, those people who are who are patients say, I'm wearing dentures. You say, I can't eat an apple. I'm going to tell you, I have all my teeth. Never got any wisdom teeth. Oh, I was fortunate. The oral surgeon made no money on me whatsoever. I never got any wisdom teeth. And I've got all 28 of my natural teeth. I do not bite into an apple. I cut my apple into pieces and I eat it that way. I don't like the idea of my teeth scraping against the skin of a whole apple. So yes, I use a knife. I cut my apple into 6 or 8 pieces and I eat it that way. And if you're wearing dentures, you can eat an apple a lot easier that way.
That's good advice. But, it's not only your brain, it's actually your gut also, right? Because in the same article, you're talking about the fact that when we're eating the wrong things, this is also kind of throwing things off downstairs as well as upstairs.
Oh, it's true. I mean, we talk about sugar, but we can talk about other things as well. So there are emulsifiers and thickeners that are placed in foods in order to be able to make the salad dressing easy to shake up and mix and to make things more creamy. If you look at the label, you'll see something like carrageenan, or you'll see polysorbate 80 or xanthan gum. These irritate your gut. And so, yeah, you have digestive problems. Maybe it's the emulsifier that's put in there. After all, if you use a salad dressing, you just make up your own salad dressing. I'll give you a recipe for salad dressing. You want to hear it? You ready? Okay. Yeah. Take some extra virgin olive oil, add some vinegar take the vinegar, whatever vinegar you like, add to that a little bit of mustard, and you're going to have a salad dressing that you just love. There's something about the mustard that just makes that really, really good. And so when you mix it up, and you mix it up with a whisk, or you mix it up with a spoon, if you don't have a whisk, you're going to have a really, really good salad dressing. And how long does it take to pour 3 ingredients? You know, if you want to really get fancy and put some garlic powder in there and onion powder, go ahead, but you don't need it. You can just mix those two together. Or if you don't even want to do that, put a little bit of, you know, take the oil and take the vinegar, just put it directly on the salad, and you'll have something that makes that salad taste good. You can use a salt shaker and give yourself some salt. And by the way, don't worry about salt from the salt shaker. This idea that you can't have any salt because you have high blood pressure. No. That, you know, we're concerned about overloading our bodies with sodium, and that primarily comes from processed foods. The salt from the salt shaker is not going to bother anybody. I know some doctors going to argue with me, but doctors, you take a look at the literature yourself. Salt shaker salt is about worth 1% when it comes to blood pressure. So, you know, yes, don't eat the processed foods. That's no good for you, the high sodium. But what you're going to get out of the salt shaker, go ahead, do flavor your food. It's okay.
So let's.
I can see the cards and letters coming in now, Kerry. Oh my goodness! I don't know if I'm able to take this. Maybe that's the reason I'm going away for so long. By the time this is aired, I'll be gone. How do you like that?
I love it.
But
well, you know,
it's so active.
It's a little maybe contrarian, but you know, I think your point is well taken. We're worried about plugging, we're worried about plugging a tiny hole, you know, as far as the salt shaker goes, when we've got just a huge panel missing out of the bottom of the boat because we're overdoing it with all these processed foods. And that's a question.
By the way, I want you to enjoy your food. I mean, you go to Chef Jillian's course, and Kerry, you might want to repeat that, because Chef Jillian will show you a way of doing this easily. And, you know, you spend an hour with her and you get a lifetime of good food as a result.
Yeah, it is. So it is such a great thing, and it's such a blessing we're able to operate. In fact, my notes for her, this class is actually happening tomorrow, April 9th, at it's called the Nourish Your Spirit cooking class. It happens right there at our Senior Resource Center, which is 1344 South Apollo Boulevard. They give us a big space on the second floor, and we do everything we can to maximize its use for good of seniors, including a lot of education programs like this one. And so what happens is Chef Jillian comes in, sets up, and she will show you step by step a nutritious, easy to prepare recipe. And like we talked about in the first half of the show, it's not like she's bringing in ovens and all kinds of professional cooking tools. It's typically done with a skillet. She sets up on top of a folding table and has her ingredients right there. And it's fascinating because you can see if she can do it in kind of that minimalist fashion, how easy it would be for you to do this at home. And of course, you get to taste this. And of course, everything she's working with is trying to keep you in line with what your doctor is telling you should probably be eating. And funny, the theme for tomorrow, Dr. Sheldon, is actually recipes to de-stress. So she's actually going to be focusing in on things that you might prepare that are going to help you feel more relaxed. And so I have a lot of feeling that everything we're talking about today would be simpatico with things that she's going to be talking about tomorrow. And if you'd like to be involved in that, it's free, but we got to know you're coming, because obviously she has to count ingredients. So you got to call us at 321-473-7770. I'll say the number again, 321-473-7770. And that kind of brings me back to a question that's kind of in this whole line of things, is like, if we're trying to be healthy, I always feel like it's maybe deceptive. Well, maybe not maybe deceptive. I feel like it is deceptive when you are trying to eat healthy and you see these big labels on something in the store, probably in the center section, and it says no added sugar, or it says something like healthy choice. And without questioning it, we pick up that package and think, oh, good, I'm eating healthy. And from everything we're talking about today, that's probably not correct.
Yeah, it's true. I mean, the front of the package is advertising, so you can say whatever you want in the front of the package. When you look at the back of the package, you still have to know what you're eating. And of course, we talked about maltodextrin maltodextrin. If there's a title of this show is Watch Out for Maltodextrin. Okay? Maltodextrin. MALTODEXTRIN. Bad stuff. Oh, gee, I'm going to get sued now. But anyway, maltodextrin. How about juice concentrate? My goodness, juice. So it comes from a juice. It must be okay. You know, we can talk about the benefits or the lack of benefits of juice rather than the whole food. But then you take the juice and then you concentrated that sugar. And then, of course, anything that says syrup on it, you know, just think about what you put in your pancakes. It's the same stuff. I don't care whether you put brown rice in front of it, you put avocado in front of it, you put apple in front of it. If it's syrup, it's syrup. And just think, you know, if you think pancake syrup is good for you, there may be a little bit of a question as to where your education maybe improves a little bit by reading maybe one article or maybe a book on nutrition. By the way, there are tons of books on nutrition. You know, they're written all over the place. In fact, if you go to Google and you just say good nutrition, you're going to find some articles that are going to be really, really good and really, really healthy. Make sure you're reading the right articles. You know, one of my favorite books. Wait, hang on. I've got to think of it. What is the name of the book? It's Good Energy. The book is Good Energy. It's written by Dr. Casey Means. And I think we talked about this probably a couple of years ago. Casey Means, she's a physician who trained as a surgeon in her last year of surgical residency, which she's ready to go out and just conquer the world surgically. Said, you know what? I'm treating these people way too late. I'm not really helping them. I'm going to become a functional medicine physician instead. And she did that. And she's doing that out in the West Coast, where I'm traveling. And, you read Good Energy is a fantastic book, and I would highly recommend that one.
Good. So, as we're talking about all these things to try to be careful and be effective in our own health plan or wellness plan, I guess I would call it. There's another thing you talk about called the fiber gap, and you say it's basically brakes on a sugar train. But then you also go on and say, like a lot of times in processed foods, they're literally stripping the fiber out, which seems like we're going in the wrong direction.
Yeah, it's true, because we look at items. Listen, your best fiber is going to come from something that's built with fiber in it. If you're inserting fiber into it, and by the way, that would be the maltodextrin trap again. Your fiber is going to come from beans, and it's going to come from fresh fruits and fresh vegetables. And that's if you're having digestive problems, and you're saying, well, I can't eat beans. Well, you just open up a can of beans and have a little bit along with your salad, for example. You can gradually build your gut up in order to be able to tolerate those beans. And when you do that, you're introducing fiber into your system. So I'm saying buy a can of black. I just said no cans, but in this case, I will say can, although I do make mine fresh, but you don't have to. You can take a can of beans, you can rinse out the can of beans, and you can just take a little bit and put it on your salad, and all of a sudden you're introducing a little bit of fiber, and you can gradually add the beans as you need to in order to be able to make yourself feel better. So if you're sensitive to beans, it's only because you're sensitive to that fiber right away at the beginning, and then gradually you can gradually build that up. Once you get to that point, you say, well, I want to make fresh beans yourself. Fine, you can take the dried beans, you can boil them up, and that's probably a little bit healthier for you, but nothing wrong with just starting in that direction and add some fiber to it. You're getting your fiber from a natural source rather than a packaged source, and it's going to make all the difference in the world.
Well, here's another, as we've been talking about this throughout the radio show, there's a lot of benefit to you from taking advantage of some of the topics that we're discussing about how to think about your food and maybe shift, do that shift. But here's one that I think if you haven't already been sold on this idea, this would seem to be the point that really would probably drive it home. You talked a lot about inflammation being kind of a root cause. And one of the things that that we've talked about is that all these hidden sugars are causing problems that we are probably running to the doctor and asking for help with. And, things that we would maybe look for a pain reliever, and yet probably some of this could be reduced if we could get our inflammation down.
Yeah, it's absolutely true. And I'm here to defend the doctors right now because the doctors are on a time crunch. Doctors are being reimbursed less and less and less every year for the particular visit. And so they're getting you in and they want to get you out. And it's so much easier to listen and then write the prescription rather than give food advice, because food advice takes a while. You have to absorb it, and frankly, you can do that much easier without the doctor. Because the doctor only has a certain amount of time. You can educate yourself. If there are disruptors that you're doing, the first thing to do is to remove this disruptors, and the disruptors are all in not all in packaged foods there, but a great majority of them are in packaged foods. And so you can take those disruptors and undisrupt yourself in order to be able to feel better. Some of this it sounds like experimentation, but think of it this way. When you were eating the packaged foods, that was the experiment. And frankly, for most of us, we flunked that experiment. So going back to something that's natural, that's not the experiment at all. That's the real deal. Now, your body's going to say, what the heck am I supposed to do with that? But you'll be surprised how quickly the body will figure out what to do with that and say, thank you, you're doing something good for me. And by the way, when you eat good, healthy, natural foods, your appetite switch goes off and you don't feel like eating anymore. Your body's asking for nutrients and you're finally giving it the nutrients, and then the switch shuts off and say, I'm full, I'm done.
Yeah. Well, I was smiling when we were talking about how little time we get with the doctor, because I'm thinking like a lot of times we run to the doctor and we're lucky, really, if we get 10 minutes of quality time with the doctor in a visit. You may be at the office for an hour and talking and doing a lot of different things, but your actual time with the doctor is very, very limited. And I was thinking you may get 10 minutes with the doctor once a month or however frequently you go, but you have 24 hours a day with yourself. So you could use this time to make some changes. And there's something you talk about called the pantry reset. And I think it's a great way to kind of bring all this in and tie it up with a nice bow to get us motivated to do something here.
Come into your pantry. Come into my pantry. Take a look. Just take a look at what you have in there. And if you're taking a look at things that you bought in the produce aisle, then you're in great shape. And if most of the things you're seeing are things that came in a package, and frankly, it isn't just the pantry, take a look at your freezer as well. Uh-huh. If it came in a package, those are the things you want to weed out first, okay? It's, why do I need this? What do I need this for? What's the substitute I can use that's natural that will produce the same result? So, yeah, take a look at your pantry and just take a look at the label in the back. I've already given you some hints on what to look for. You can find those things online. Just feed in all the ingredients into Google and let Google tell you what those ingredients are. You'll find out the things in the pantry that are packaged likely aren't very good for you.
Yeah. Dr. Lee Sheldon with Dr. Sheldon and Furtado, Solid Bite. That's about the time we have for the show today. Real quick, before we go, I want to make sure somebody has a phone number for you, Dr. Sheldon.
321-259-8000.
And ask about the Solid Bite Gives Back program. And we'll see you next time right back here for Helping Seniors Radio.